Hello my beautiful friends, it's Mimi here today, and today I'm going to talk to you about a very interesting subject, and a subject that I think is very important to address in today's world. And the subject is gender equality. I recently got an email from one of my beautiful friends, and in the email this girl was asking me what I think about gender equality and whether I think men and women are equal. When I first read the email I thought, come on, like, you can't be serious. The answer to that question is so clear and simple in my mind. So surely anyone who has internet would be able to look this up and know the answer to that question. However, when I actually went on the internet and I started like Googling, are men and women equal? I became shocked to see all these debates from men and women on the subject of equality. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about this in a video and also to get your feedback and opinions on the subject. So I'm gonna answer the question in a video because I thought it's a fascinating subject and something that needs addressing. So before I answer the question of whether I think men and women are equal, I want to talk about the word equality and what that means. So if we look in the dictionary, equality means it's a state of being equal in rights, opportunities, and status. So we can all agree that equality doesn't mean same. If you look at men and women, it's obvious that we're not the same. Even if we just look at the physical level and the physical structure of men and women, we're completely different. So obviously equality doesn't mean the same. And I think that if you look online and read articles and watch different videos on the subject, a lot of it talks about the fact that, oh, men and women are not the same, therefore they're not equal. But to me, and as we can see in the dictionary, equality means that you have the same rights, that you get the same treatment, that you get the same wage, that you have the same status, and you're treated equally as men. So to answer this very long question, in my mind and in my opinion, men and women are completely equal. And again, what I'm saying here, and I think it's very important to be clear, because a lot of times, I almost feel like people want to be delusioned and they take information and they spin it up and they sort of change it to what they want to believe in. So what I'm talking about here is just equality in the treatment of individuals. So whether you're man or woman, that you need to be, or you are as a human, you have the rights to be treated equal. Whether you're a man or woman, that you have the rights to be paid equally, that you have the rights to vote, that you have the rights to choose who you want to be with, who you want to marry, what you gotta wear, and all those things. So in my mind, it's super clear and simple that equality is the way to go, that men and women are equal. However, having said that, it's not enough to feel like you're an equal to be actually treated as an equal. Because if we look outside into the world, and again, I did quite a lot of research after I got this question, and I watched some movies. One of the movies I would recommend for you to watch is Makers. It's about women in Hollywood. And looking outside into the world and what's happening, not just here, in the Western world, but just everywhere in the world, and even here in the Western world, women are not being treated equally. Women are on average getting paid 30 to 20% less than men for the same roles and careers. And even though more women, let's say in the United States, go to college right now at the moment and graduate from college, only something like 5% of Fortune 500 companies CEOs are actually women. So in terms of opportunities that women are gaining right now, it's definitely not equal. So I'm not here delusioned that the world is equal, but in my world, in my opinion, equality is possible. And I think equality is created first in your own world. So like I said, it's not enough to feel like you're an equal. In order to be treated equal, you have to act like an equal in any given situation. For example, I'll tell you one story from my personal life. Years ago, when I used to work as a waitress, I worked in this restaurant, and again, I'm not gonna give any names because that's not the purpose, of this video, is not to bash anyone. But the situation was that this was a restaurant, most of the waitresses were females, some were males, and it was very clear from almost the first month of working there that the women were treated differently. Up to the point where it got to affect me personally. I didn't really do anything about it, but I wasn't really happy in that career. But at the time, I really needed money. I was supporting my parents and helping them pay for the mortgage, but one day I came to work late because I had two jobs. So I would finish one shift working at a bank, and then, you know, I got a friend, it was snowing, and my friend dropped me off at work, and I was a bit late, maybe 5 to 10 minutes late. One of my bosses called me into his office, and he basically gave me this huge lecture, and it was extremely condescending. It was extremely unreasonable based on what happened, you know, somebody being just 5 minutes late. And it was clearly him using his like ego power as somebody, not even in the position of a man, but somebody in a position of a power at the company because he owned the business, to put me down and act so condescendingly towards his employee. And, you know, he just gave me shit, basically. He talked about all these things that I was doing wrong in my position and just basically made me feel so terrible, and then said, okay, now you can go back to work. So I walked out of his office. I started basically, you know, serving people, and it just felt so wrong. It just felt like, you know, and not just me, again, this happened many times to other females in the company, and, you know, people just seem to put up with it and keep going. And I just felt like, you know what? Like, forget it. I don't need to put up with this. Like, it basically like just struck me almost right away. As soon as I walked out of his office and I was trying to continue working, I realized I cannot do it, you know. You cannot treat somebody so disrespectfully and unequally, because let's say if male waiters were coming late to work, they wouldn't get the same kind of treatment. So basically, I went back into his office, I knocked on the door, I walked in, and I said, you know, thank you so much for your feedback. I took off my apron and I said, I'm gonna be resigning today, and I know that I will find a different company where I will be treated equally. And the shock on his face was absolutely priceless, because he was used to giving women all this condescending attitude and for women to put up with it, where I said, you know what, screw it, I can go find another job, I don't need to put up with this. And I remember walking out of work that day and, you know, feeling excited and very empowered because I stood up for myself, but also feeling extremely, you know, scared and fearful because I just quit a job and I really depended on this money, and my family also depended on this money. However, it's very important that in these situations you stand up for yourself and you demand to be treated as an equal person, whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter. I think this is even beyond, you know, genders. This is just as any human being. We should all stand up for ourselves and ask for equal treatment. And that was a big lesson for me, and it was something that I was very proud of. And within a week, I found another job, and, you know, things just come along and everything works out in the end. But again, like I said, if we look out there into the world, women are not being treated equally. Many women are being forced to marry people they don't want to marry. Again, I'm not gonna name any countries. If you want any articles or research, I might include it in the info box. That is not the purpose of this video. There's still countries in our world where women are not allowed to get education, or there's countries in our world where women are still not allowed to vote. And I always ask myself this question: whose problem is it that women are not being treated equally in the world, and who is going to fix it? Do you think men are going to fix it for us? You know, the truth is, if we want to have equality in the world, we women have to stand up for ourselves and we have to demand equality. And please don't call me feminist. I am the furthest it gets from feminist, because I absolutely love men and I respect men, and I respect men equally, and I don't blame them for gender inequality. I truly believe, and if we look at history, we see it, you know, the evidence of that women themselves have to stand up for their own equality. Men are not going to do it for us. We women have to do it. And one great example is here. You know, this woman is basically one of the suffragists. This was a movement here in the UK that had to fight for women's rights to vote. So basically, here in London, 100 years ago, only 100 years ago, I wasn't able to vote. I, as a woman, wouldn't be able to vote. I wouldn't be allowed. So this woman, I think her name is Anna? Yeah, Annie. And I'll show you the picture in color. Extremely inspiring. So basically there was a hall meeting in town, and there was a member of parliament that she stood up to and asked him why women can't, why aren't we allowed to vote? Why are women not allowed to vote? And he refused to answer her. So she persisted and wanted him to answer the question. And guess what happened? She was thrown to jail for 3 days. However, you know, her standing up for herself and for her right created this movement, this massive movement that ended up changing the world. And one step at a time, this is what creates equality. So people right now, and if you read all these articles on the internet or watch, they these movies that argue about gender equality and saying that, you know, equality will never be possible, it's not real, are the same people who 100 years ago would tell you and I, you know, maybe you're a man watching, but if you're a woman, would tell women like myself that, you know, you're lower status, you cannot vote. You know, it's the same people who are actually delusional and don't see that, you know, it's in our human nature. What's happening right now is that we're actually evolving, and we're evolving to be equal. And again, I'm not saying we're the same, we're evolving to be equal in fairness and treating each other with fairness and having the same opportunity, having the same pay, and having equal rights as human beings. So basically, that's a very long answer to my question, but I thought it's a very interesting subject that doesn't get addressed enough. And it really shocks me and appalls me when I see that some people think that women and men are not equal. And again, I'm gonna repeat this one more time because I see so many people confuse this point. It's not the sameness that I'm talking about. I'm talking about equal rights, equal pay for the same jobs. You know, I don't know if I mentioned this, I've said so many things, but like I said, in America, women are getting paid 30% less for doing the same jobs. You do the same job and you get paid 30 to 20% less. Or, you know, I watched this movie Makers that I mentioned, and, you know, the movie talked about how in Hollywood, only 30% of jobs are taken by women, actresses or directors. So 70% of the workspace in Hollywood is men. But again, whose problem is it? Is it men's problem or is it women's problem? So if we want to have equal rights and if we want to be treated equally, we have to stand up, we have to apply, we have to request, we have to challenge, we have to question, we have to create the equality in our world, our small world. You know, I have created equality in my world. All the men in my life treat me equally, and I treat all the men in my life equally. And that's why when I heard that question, I was a bit taken back, because in my view, it is so simple and it's so clear. However, if we want to see gender equality on a big scale, we all have to work really hard on first creating it in our own little communities and in our own little families. That is all I have to say on the subject today. I would love to hear your opinion as well, so leave me a comment down below. Like this video, it will totally make my day, and make sure to share it with your friends and family, because I feel like everyone needs to hear this message. And you know, I think we're ready to act and be treated equally, whether we're man or woman. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching this video. I love you and have a wonderful day. Bye!